Hi, this is going to be a pretty quick video, and I'm really just addressing the whole Karmelo Anthony decision. He was found guilty in about 3 hours by the jury. That actually is lightning fast for a first degree murder case where there was an arguable, albeit weak, self defense defense. So there's a lot of people, and of course, people have opinions. Juries usually tend to get it fairly right. The bottom line is we use the jury system because juries are pretty damn good. So I have no concerns about the verdict in that case, and the jury's still deliberating on a sentence. They'll come down with what they think is right, and then the judge will affirm it or set it aside. That's neither here nor there. But regarding the process of the case, and whether or not there's been a travesty or a miscarriage of justice. Yeah, I think there has to a degree. And that's really a hard thing. But I still think the jury got the right verdict. For me, this comes down to the defense that was not offered. Every defendant, even those that are guilty as sin, have a right to a adequately prepared defense. And in this case, Karmelo Anthony did not receive one. There was playing in the media by the family to raise money and capitalize on his crime. There was a complete lack of a coherent defense theme. A lot of allegations, but the defense didn't provide any meat. It's kind of like they played a PR game and phoned in the actual work. The homework was never done. And that is a problem. Mr. Anthony, um, gosh, one of the problems that defendants have when they lose a case, you can't, a criminal defendant can't really sue their defense attorney effectively. The sole defense on a malpractice claim is that, but for the failings of their attorney, they would have been found innocent, or they would have been found not guilty. Total misuse of term, and I know better. But for the failing of their attorney, they would not have been found guilty. Okay, that obviously is not the case in 99.999% of all criminal prosecution. Hell, there have been defense attorneys that have fallen asleep and slept through the trial and have not been found liable for malpractice. Okay, the defense doesn't have to prove anything in a normal defense case. But this isn't a normal defense. They were pleading self-defense, that Karmelo Anthony's actions were justified in self-defense. Self-defense is an affirmative defense. You have to prove it. Now, not beyond reasonable doubt. You have to prove it to a lower standard. And then the state has to counter it beyond a reasonable doubt. However, if you don't prove it to that standard, the state doesn't ever have to meet their responsive standard. So in this case, they didn't prep their witnesses. They didn't know what they were asking. Their own witnesses were co-opted by the state to show that Anthony was the aggressor. This was amateur hour, straight up the whole way. I'm offended professionally. I think Karmelo Anthony was guilty as hell, and I'm offended professionally at the quality of his defense. Then in mitigation, the jury just found your client guilty of first-degree murder. And the only mitigation evidence offered was his mother and 2 questions. His mother testified and said that she loved him. Well, no shit. Every mother on the planet's going to say that. What you needed to do was present evidence as to why he had a weapon. He didn't have the weapon because he was planning to kill somebody. He had the weapon because of some evidence that you would have brought out. He was bullied. He was oppressed. He was scared. He had some reason why he had that with him. Hell, he found it and picked it up on the sidewalk outside, and he picked it up so that no kid would play with it and get hurt. You come up with something. For the love of God, there's got to be a reason. This is the worst defense I've seen. It's terrible. The entire defense relies upon racism and not on facts. Okay, if you want to defend a guy because he committed murder and you're going to argue self-defense, you got to come up with some reason why he was acting in self-defense. I mean, for the love of God, you phoned it in during the case, and then in mitigation, the defense attorney just said, nah, fuck it, he's going to fry anyway. I mean, come on. I mean, there ought to be sanctions. A defense attorney does not act like that. I practiced criminal defense for 12 years. I have argued the merits and the quality and the character of people I've represented for sex offenses. And I find that offense to be personally revolting. Okay? You still got to do it. Your job as a defense attorney is to force the court, force the finders of fact to face your client's humanity and their weaknesses and not judge them on the single worst moment of their life. There is no excuse for this level of incompetence. Who was this attorney serving? Were they serving Karmelo Anthony, or were they serving the parents' trust fund, the parents' give, send, go, and fundraising goal? Who are they working for? Because now you got to ask this. And what's worse is when Karmelo Anthony realizes that he was sold down the river by the people that are supposed to care about him. And yeah, I use that phrase intentionally. Because that's exactly what happened. His family sold his ass for $700,000. It's revolting, it's insulting, and it's what just fucking happened. When he realizes that, he's going to file an appeal. And his appeal is going to be ineffective assistance of counsel. And then they're going to have to argue that his counsel is competent. And for the love of God, I can't see how. But they're going to try and do it. Best case, they say his counsel was competent. Everybody knows differently. And he's and he got a raw deal because he got a crappy defense. And people don't have faith in the jury verdict because of it. Not because the jury did anything wrong, but because his own people sold him down the river for $700,000. Okay, that is what happened. And it is a goddamn shame. It's an insult, personally and professionally. Now, what are his other recourses? Well, if they come back and they say, you know what, you're right, this was completely inappropriate, you were not adequately represented, we're going to do the trial again. Now the Metcalfs have to go through the trial of the person who killed their son another time. It is yet another infliction of emotional distress by Karmelo Anthony's family. This is terrible. It's bullshit. It should have never happened. And frankly, that defense attorney, I'm not even going to mention their names because they don't deserve any promotion. Okay, that's the problem. I'm a career defense attorney, and I find this to be ridiculous and insulting. Okay, there is no possible reason to believe that the kid was ever going to walk on this day. That was never going to happen. But damn it, he deserved a defense. That's what I got on this. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm not going to apologize for my language. I feel pretty strongly about what I said, how I said it. Yeah, I could have been neater, but you know what? That's who I am. Deal with it. Please like and subscribe, or don't. I wouldn't blame you either way. Have a good day.